Hello, my name is Vi Ha. I am the Librarian 3 for the Octavia Lab. Before we get started on our Hidden Heroes Historic Places program, I would like to talk a little bit about some upcoming programs that are happening. So if you're interested in local Los Angeles history, you're already on our YouTube channel or the Facebook Live channel. Check out Discover LGBTQIA Los Angeles. It's going to give a little bit of landmarks in Los Angeles. The program is on Wednesday, June 9th at 7 p.m. We're really excited about this. The Los Angeles Public Library is partnering with the Huntington Library Art Museum of Botanical Gardens, doing an entire month-long celebration of Octavia E. Butler. All the programs are virtual and free. You have to sign up for it. They're all hosted on Zoom. So this is a shot of the Octavia Lab when we first opened in 2019. We are a 3,000 square foot space. It's located in Central Library in downtown Los Angeles. The space has 2 3D printers, laser cutters, audio video digitization equipment, a studio, a whole bunch of stuff. All of this stuff is available for you for free if you have a Los Angeles Public Library card. So the Octavia Lab is dedicated to and named in honor of Octavia E. Butler, science fiction writer, world builder, MacArthur Grant Genius winner. And we are very, very deeply honored to be named after her. And she was a very regular user of the Central Library. Since April 2020, the Octavia Lab, in partnerships with nonprofit organizations, county organizations, as well with other nonprofit groups, have donated over 55,000 face shields to local area hospitals. We've also, in this project, created 200 jobs for teenagers, and we are very deeply grateful to the donation from the Best Friends, in-kind donation from LAPL, donations from other nonprofit groups, and also from the very support of volunteers, and also the support from the estate of Octavia E. Butler. And a little bit about Hidden Heroes Historic Places. We started this coloring book as in celebration of Octavia E. Butler's birthday. She loved stories, and so we wanted to uplift our community after what happened with Black Lives Matter, after the pandemic, with stories about what happened in our world. And we thought that having coloring pages was a way of giving people stress relief, and also for a way for younger people to learn more about our history in a deeper way. So here's a screenshot of one of our pages. There are 15 people that we profile. This is of Dr. Veda Somerville and Dr. John Somerville. And they are standing in front of Hotel Somerville, which is more famously known as Dunbar Hotel, which was the center of the Central Avenue jazz scene from the 1920s and 1950s. This here is an image of Julius Leavitt in front of the Breed Street Shul. And in 1938, there was an interfaith anti-Nazi rally that happened. This is a little blown up of one of our written descriptions. So we have like about 100-word description about the biography about the person. Then we have the location description, and also online and in-person activities also. We're deeply, deeply grateful for the Los Angeles Conservancy in adding greater depth to our story. We're also deeply grateful for Best Friends for publishing our coloring book. Thank you. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Rachel.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rachel Anderson, current president of Best Friends, which is the support group for the Downtown LA Library's Business, Economics, and Science, Technology, and Patents departments. This group has been active since 1980, and our purpose is to both raise funds for these key library departments and to create awareness of the valuable services that they provide for our community. For example, what we just described. In 2020, Best Friends was incredibly proud to be able to support the Octavia Lab in multiple projects that benefit not only its patrons, but the city as a whole. Last spring, when the lab proposed using its 3D printers to create protective face shields for essential workers, Best Friends provided funding for supplies that were not covered by the lab's normal budget. And when the ever-innovative lab team proposed making a book from its popular coloring pages, Best Friends was able to provide resources to publish the incredible book that we are now celebrating today. We are honored to be presenting you with this incredible publication, as well as to be joined by family members and other representatives of some of the heroes featured. We are so grateful to them for being here today. We would also like to thank the LA Conservancy for joining us in supporting and promoting the book launch. Finally, of course, we would like to thank Skylight Books, where the coloring book can now be purchased. Book sales benefit Best Friends, which in turn funds more incredible projects and community services from the departments that we support at the library. Without further ado, please welcome Jay Chang, our VP of Programming at Best Friends, and also representing Skylight today.
Thank you, Rachel. Hello, everyone. My name is Jay, and I'm a bookseller at Skylight. If you're not familiar with us, Skylight Books is a general interest independent bookstore located in the Los Feliz neighborhood of Los Angeles, California. And yes, I do recognize that I said those technically very incorrectly. We're open for in-store browsing from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. on weekends and 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. on weekends, as well as 24/7 at www.skylightbooks.com. We also offer nationwide shipping and curbside pickup. As a bookseller, LAPL fangirl, and Best Friends member, I'm so happy that Skylight could participate in this event and covering the personal stories connected with the city's hidden heroes alongside LAPL's Best Friends, the Coloring Books publisher, as well as the Octavia Lab and LA Conservancy staff. Please support LAPL and Best Friends by purchasing Hidden Heroes Historic Places in store or online. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope to see you in store soon.
Thank you so much, Jay, for that intro. So right now we're going to hand it off to Ahmed, who's from the LA Conservancy. You're muted.
Thank you for that. Technical difficulties. I'll start over. I'm Sana. I'm the Student and Family Program Manager with the Los Angeles Conservancy. I want to thank all of the wonderful presenters who invited me back today to speak to you all a little bit about the organization that I work for and how we partnered with the Octavia Labs to bring this wonderful coloring book to you all today. So the Los Angeles Conservancy is a nonprofit organization that is based in downtown Los Angeles, not too far from the library, right around the corner, in fact. And we work to preserve historic and cultural spaces in all of Los Angeles County. Interesting fact, we were actually founded after our preservations effort to save the historic Central Library. Believe it or not, but the Central Library was going to be up for demolition in the late 70s. And in 1978, a few individuals who eventually formed the Los Angeles Conservancy started a conversation to speak about how important it is to save historic buildings and think about the stories of the people who are connected to them. I want to tell you a little bit about the programs that we offer. So if you are curious and inspired after reading through the stories in the Hidden Heroes Historic Places coloring book, you can learn more about historic places and hidden heroes through our programs. So many people know about us through the variety of walking tours that we offer of historic buildings, places, and neighborhoods. And in fact, this May, we resumed our on-site walking tour program. So if you would like to get back into neighborhoods and learn about their history, we invite you to visit our website to learn more. We also work really closely with residents and community members to help them be advocates for different historic places in their neighborhood. Here we have pictured here the very excited group who is working to save the Santa Fe art colonies in the art district. And lastly, my personal favorite, my job at the Los Angeles Conservancy, inspiring the next generation of preservationists, working directly with families and students. I'm really excited to share, in addition to the coloring book, we worked with the Teenscape librarians at the Central Library to curate a book list that will be launching this July, featuring stories for students in elementary, middle school, and high school that focus on people and places of Los Angeles and beyond. So stay tuned if you'd like to inspire youth to learn more about historic places. And please do stay in touch with us. You can visit our website at laconservancy.org. You can email us at info@laconservancy.org or follow us on social media. I just want to clarify for you all that it was really exciting to partner with the different groups who put this coloring book together. And in particular, we worked really closely to design activities to encourage individuals who are coloring pages and reading about these important individuals to engage with the places, the historic places that these individuals impacted. So be curious about your buildings that you're surrounded by, and please do be in touch with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Sana. And so next up is Arianne Edmonds, who is going to be speaking about who wrote the foreword to the book, which we're very grateful for, and also is going to be speaking about the J.L. Edmonds project, and it's also our new library commissioner. Thank you so much, Arianne.
Nice. Thank you for having me. Good afternoon, everyone. Like we just shared, I'm a fifth generation Angelino. Our family has been here for over 140 years. And I've spent probably the last decade putting together our family history and sharing that with the Los Angeles Public Library, which is what launched our partnership and what also allowed me to become the new commissioner, which I'm so grateful for and super excited. So I just want to actually share a little bit about Jefferson and his life. Jefferson Lewis Edmonds was born enslaved in Mississippi. He learned to read and write through the Freedmen Bureau schools and had the opportunity to leave the South, escape the South, and move to California, where he was able to start the Liberator newspaper. The Liberator newspaper became a central place for folks to learn about, where they could purchase land, what civic activities were happening, who they should vote for, different opportunities for them to really expand and grow their life, and to have a new way of operating and to really help to define really Black American citizenship. So it's actually through the Liberator that I've, I think, built like a newfound love and appreciation for the city of LA. And I'm, internally grateful to the work that we've been able to do at the library. We've digitized the paper, everything is accessible online. And yeah, thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the rest of the program.
Thank you so much. And so next up, we have Michelle Banks, president of the African American Firefighter Museum, and she's going to be speaking about Arnett Hartsfield. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you to the Los Angeles Library, the Octavia Lab, Best Friends, LA Conservancy, and the Central Library, of course, for this opportunity to chat with you. As we said, I'm Michelle Banks, president and co-founder of the African American Firefighter Museum. Got a question for you. Have you ever wondered how one choice can change the path of history? Well, my 31-year career with the Los Angeles Fire Department is a testament to those who came before me. Arnett Hartsfield and his men made the choice and took action to integrate the Los Angeles Fire Department. Folks, history matters. As you heard with Arianne, 140 plus years in Los Angeles. History matters. Stories of courage and triumph, as well as injustice, struggle, and achievement, nurtures our personal and collective identity. The preservation and sharing of these stories and the places, such as Fire Station 30, ensures a more comprehensive and dynamic American history and a strong foundation for vibrant and civically engaged communities. Mr. Hartsfield was the driving force behind the founding of the African American Firefighter Museum. The museum is dedicated to collecting, conserving, and sharing the heritage of African American firefighters through collaboration and education. We're located in the beautifully restored Fire Station 30 on historic Central Avenue in southeast downtown Los Angeles. Fire Station 30 was one of the two previously segregated fire stations in Los Angeles between the mid-1920s in the mid-1950s. We use the story of the old Centurions, the men who integrated the Los Angeles Fire Department, and at that time they were all men. We use that story to demonstrate how individual and collective action can advance society. Our work as an all-volunteer, donation-driven nonprofit celebrates the history and ongoing legacy of African-American firefighters, connects people across generations and communities, and inspires a sense of community engagement and public service. Arnett Hartsfield, who was hired by the Los Angeles Fire Department in 1940. I hope you can see him. He's in the front row, if you can see my little pointer there. Second fella from the right, my right at least. Arnett, hired in 1940, came on just after the Los Angeles Fire Department had decided that recruits would begin training in 24-hour shifts. As a result of that, they had also ruled that Black recruits could not spend the evening at the fire academy. So Arnett began his career with the Los Angeles Fire Department at Fire Station 30, where he was both trained and worked. In 1942, he formally raised the question of integration of the LAFD, and he was told that that was not a part of the plan for the city of LA. Arnett committed right then and there to revisit the issue when he returned from World War II. In short, as a result of the concerted effort of Mr. Hartsfield and his men, LAFD, the Los Angeles Fire Department, was integrated. One Black firefighter per integrated station. They called it integration, Arnett called it isolation. These men made additional choices to endure the hardship and the isolation and the deplorable treatment they received in order to achieve an integrated department. As a result of that choice and that collective action, the Los Angeles Fire Department and the city of Los Angeles opened the employment doors to additional African-American firefighters, women, and additional people of color. This image shows LAFD's first African-American fire chief, Douglas Berry, on my left, along with the second African-American fire chief, Millage Peaks, on my right. And they're celebrating with Arnett Hartsfield on his day, Fire Chief for a Day in 2012. The presence of Fire Chief Berry, who started in 2007, Fire Chief Peaks, Fire Chief Cummings, and Interim Fire Chief Featherstone is a direct result of the work and effort of the men who were integrated the Los Angeles Fire Department. When Mr. Hartsfield raised the concept of a museum, establishing a museum at Fire Station 30, City of Los Angeles officials asked whether or not he was attempting to build a monument to segregation. Hartsfield responded by saying that Fire Station 30 and the museum would be a monument to what could be accomplished in spite of segregation. Mr. Hartsfield and his men chose to act against many challenges over the course of his life. He was a lawyer, a veteran, an educator, an author, and a historian, and as I mentioned earlier, a co-founder of the museum. These are just a few brief stories of what you'll hear if you visit our website at aaffmuseum.org or visit the museum once we reopen in summer. And as always, we invite you to join us in any way that you can and join us in this process of ongoing history and heritage preservation through conversation, partnership, contributions, and even volunteering at the museum. Thank you for your time. Look forward to your questions.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for that. Next up, Lorena Villegas, who's going to be speaking about her late husband, Aurelio José Barrera.
Hello, and thank you again for inviting us, returning and speaking of our family. So my husband was a photographer for the LA Times. He did help the paper win a Pulitzer for a series on the Latino community while he was an intern. That certainly was a professional highlight of his career, but he viewed his successes every day when he did stuff for his community and his family, and he saw those as no less valuable than the Pulitzer. Aurelio was born and raised in Boyle Heights. His mother was a Mexican immigrant who for many years worked peeling shrimp in downtown Los Angeles's refrigerated warehouses. His father, although born in Illinois, was deported during the 1930s repatriation of American citizens of Mexican descent. His father tried returning but was denied entry and came back as a guest worker or bracero in the early 1940s. I mentioned my husband's parents because I think they were a big reason for the fire in his heart for justice and immigrants. His father would reiterate that he would have to work twice as hard to get half the recognition, but his parents also taught him to take pride in his culture. He would ride his bike to school as a young boy, and he'd whiz by the corner markets, smelling the incense of the local botanicas, passing 100-year-old headstones at the Serbian and Jewish cemeteries in Boyle Heights, and memorizing all the saints of the churches in the area that they're named after. He graduated from Roosevelt High School and was the kind of student who excelled without really trying. He turned down a full ride at Notre Dame for engineering because the opportunity did not align with his values. He was a sensitive person who immediately saw the world differently as a boy. He was drawn to people who were marginalized or were part of subcultures. He found interest in the details of their lifestyle, their habits, and their stories. His interest in photography became a big part of his life in high school. He saw in black and white, he would say. His father built him a darkroom in a garage. He documented everyday life in his unique style, capturing the emotion of a brief moment. He landed an internship with the LA Times while still in the journalism program at Long Beach State, or when it was Long Beach State. The internship ultimately became a permanent position as a photojournalist with the paper. He was always thankful for those that had opened doors for him, namely the late Rick Corrales, who was a photographer at the LA Times, and the then assistant city editor, Frank Sotomayor. I know my husband would have loved me to mention them. He always remembered them fondly, and because they saw his student work and believed in him. Working at the Times gave him a platform for what he loved. He did become frustrated with the way communities of color were portrayed by the media and the Times, but the media overall. The success of the Latinos Project that would ultimately win the paper their Pulitzer was only the beginning for him. To illustrate everyday, not only beauty, but regular life in communities of color that seemed to be exploited solely for their stories of crime, poverty, and despair. My husband lived his life with integrity. He was happy when he was being of service, whether it was through his food drives after retiring from the newspaper, where he would personally hand out fruit and foods to those lacking shelter, or doing for up-and-coming photographers what had been done for him. Our friend Justin De Leon recalls, quote, "He contributed to young artists around him, giving every resource he could to help us succeed and achieve with whatever we strived for." Another Pulitzer-winning photographer, Rob Gauthier, remembers José giving him sage advice when he won his Pulitzer. He said, quote, "Enjoy it, but understand it doesn't change a thing. In fact, they're going to try to take you down a notch." Gauthier was prepared, and it happened just as he said it would. He said about José, "I never understood how he could have so much humanity while being overtly cynical." Another photographer that worked with him, Gennaro Molina, said he had a humanistic eye and always photographed the Latino community with love and respect. His photography always revealed those quiet moments that so many overlook. My husband passed away in October of last year, 2020. Los Angeles lost a hero who really cared about the people of the city. And his family lost the most selfless father, grandfather, and husband that we could ever ask for. And I hope you enjoy the pictures all taken by him. The last ones are of his food drives in the city of Montebello, East LA, pretty much his backyard. He would go out every morning and hand out donated fruit and food to the homeless and blankets and jackets during the cold months. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the pictures.
Thank you so much for that, Lorena Villegas. We're very sorry for your loss. Next up is Gail Rolf, who's going to be speaking about Dr. Virginia Uribe. and about Project 10. Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this, and it's certainly an honor. Dr. Virginia Uribe was my late partner and spouse for 31 years. She was the founder of the Project 10 program for the Los Angeles Unified School District in 1984, where she started up the nation's first public school program to provide dropout prevention education and suicide prevention programs for then gay and lesbian students. And of course now, gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer plus is part of the acronym. But back then it was just gay and lesbian. So forgive me for that if I use those terms, but that's what it was back then. She had a staunch belief in liberty and justice for all people, and certainly that included gay and lesbian people, and in particular youth, who were considered to be objects of bigotry and hate and just throwaway students by the educational institutions that served them. 2 years went by. What happened was the program wasn't attacked, and as a result of the attacks, it gained publicity, and with publicity came support from people all over the country. And 2 years later, she went ahead and started up Friends of Project 10, the nonprofit arm, so she could expand her work nationwide. Preceding the Project 10 program was the Harvey Milk Club, and Harvey Milk was the openly gay supervisor in San Francisco who was brutally gunned down with Mayor Moscone, and he was a staunch advocate for gay and lesbian rights. And so these are some of the very first students in the program at Fairfax High School in Los Angeles who were part of that program, and they were incredibly brave to attend meetings. They would attend meetings by coming through the neighbor teacher's classroom so that nobody would see them at noon, and they would put paper on the windows so nobody could look into the room for fear of being harassed and brutalized at school. When her work was discovered, she began receiving literally hundreds of awards and acknowledgments throughout the years, but her very first one was by the Southern California Women for Understanding, which was a sort of a screen name for closeted lesbian women, although not all the women were closeted back then. They were out and proud and speaking up on behalf of lesbian rights. But the reason for so many women to be in the closet was that you could be fired from your job, you could lose your children in a custody battle, you could be denied housing, and so that they were very difficult times back then. Once the program was known, article after article, journalist after journalist, TV programs, news stations, radio, could not get enough of Virginia Uribe to talk about gay and lesbian issues in our nation's schools and to talk about creating safe campuses, safe spaces so our students could achieve academically and become productive citizens. One of her very first Project 10 students was Gregory Cartwright, who later became a graduation speaker at Fairfax High School. He was one of the first openly gay students in the country to do so, and Gregory and I remain friends to this day. Students, teachers march in parades. Virginia Uribe was Grand Marshal when I met her of the Pride Parade, and we were gay pioneers one year. It was a lot of fun, and of course, thousands of people attended. Friends of Project 10, the nonprofit arm, had three major programs: the Models of Excellence Scholarship Program for graduating high school students, the Models of Pride Conference, which was a free youth conference at Occidental College, and the LGBTQ Youth Prom. We were married in 2008 when we were permitted to do so, and it was our assembly member, Anthony Portantino, who married us. So it was a lot of fun, and we were proud to do so. She tragically passed away in 2019, but she certainly left her legacy, and there was a wonderful event for her. And with that, I'm going to close with two of her very favorite quotes. And one is, every young person who has a right to a sense of self-respect and dignity. In public education, we serve the needs of all of our students. Some are gay and lesbian, and we need to serve them too. We're supposed to be teaching them to live in an increasingly diverse society. This shouldn't be a place where prejudice is fostered. It is where discrimination should be fought. And to close, as long as I have a breath in me, I will continue to fight for the rights of gay and lesbian students. Thank you.
Gail, thank you so much for sharing those photos and those images. It's very nice to see the power of educators and what they're able to do. Next up is Florante Ibanez, filmmaker of the documentary about Helen Brown called Got Book, Auntie Helen's Gift of Books, about the founder of the Filipino American Library. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for having me here. I want to thank LAPL and all the other organizations involved in putting this together, and of course the coloring book. I just want to make sure that folks understand that this is a woman who endured a lot in her life with prejudice and so forth. She was an immigrant from the Philippines. Her father was an American teacher in the Philippines during the colonial period when the Philippines was a colony of the United States. Her mother was the daughter of a local government official, like a governor of his area in Ilocos. And she grew up with a fairly large family with twins, a brother and sister, and coming here in the United States, she learned about what it meant to be discriminated against. She had the opportunity to come because of her father's status as a Caucasian teacher, and also the fact that he had been awarded as a supervisor of education in the Philippines. So when they first arrived here, they actually settled in Pasadena, and she attended Pasadena City College. Where, as a matter of fact, I'm an adjunct professor right now teaching Asian American Pacific Studies. And I've also had the opportunity to be a librarian myself. I'm a retired librarian. And so a lot of this all kind of falls in place for me. Helen Summers Brown was a counselor and a teacher with the LA Unified School District, where she was active in a lot of minority affairs, especially in bilingual education. So she was an advocate for bilingual education and also for promoting minorities within the ranks to become more than just teachers or counselors, but to aspire to be principals and other higher positions. She originally started the library with the collection that she got from her father, which was of the books that he used in the Philippines. And she was surprised to find that there was so little information here in the United States about the Philippines, but yet there were so many Filipino students arriving. And especially after 1965, when the immigration laws changed, Filipinos were arriving in droves, and also through family reunification and immigration, what is it called? I'm sorry, I forgot the term, but chain migration. Families were able to reunify and bring relatives over from other countries. The library was started in the 80s, and very modestly in the basement of the Filipino Christian Church, where she had friends there, including the late Uncle Roy Morales, who was another icon in our community. And together they helped build this library from a small collection into a collection that was over 5,000 items, including books, cassettes, DVDs, and so forth. But what was interesting is that she also is believed to be one of the first Filipinas to graduate from UCLA. There's some dispute about this because other people say that they were the first Filipina, but as far as we know, she graduated in 1937 with a bachelor's in education and also a master's in education from UCLA. This led her to work for the LAUSD, and then later on, oh, I'm sorry, I was supposed to start showing some pictures. Can you show the pictures, please? Where she was very influential with folks in terms of trying to get her agenda across, including Jackie Goldberg, who was a very close friend and ally to the Filipino American community when she was a councilwoman and also even now on the school board. Helen found her love of her life at UCLA, her husband Bill Brown, but because of anti-miscegenation laws during that time, a woman of color could not marry a white man. So they had to leave California and go over to Boulder, Nevada in order to get married. So her children, all boys, actually look more Anglo than Filipino, but they are very proud of their own Filipino heritage and understand the suffering that their mom went through as a young woman and a young bride. After the Filipino community gave her many honors for starting this library, she was able to go on and become known very well in our community as Auntie Helen, along with Uncle Roy Morales, who was the other icon out of the Filipino American community here in Los Angeles. Change slide. This is her in her later years, and she was always engaging, lots of fun, and had a great sense of humor and loved her books. Next slide, please. Here she is with a children's program at Luzon Plaza in what is now known as historic Filipino Town, directing children in a performance, I think, of Filipino folk dancing and singing. Next slide. And here she is receiving an award from the city. I think this is upon her retirement at the time, surrounded by other Filipino leaders from our community. Next slide, please. And as a result of our growing influence and connections, we were able to have some popular celebrities attend our fundraising dinners. Since we were a nonprofit, small library in the community. And this is Helen, again, being recognized at one of those dinners at the Biltmore Hotel. Next slide, please. This is just a short clip from the film that I did.
That there are people who are interested enough in the library and its resources that they can come and learn, and as they learn more, they spread more about it, and I find out that sometimes that's working because they come over, and so little by little, you know, it's growing. So I hope someday it'll be very well known. It's great to have people come and learn more about it, to have you come, and for me to learn more from you about what's happening. So I'm very happy about that. It makes me feel good.
So Helen passed away in 2011, and her collection now resides with the USC East Asia Library because it was very difficult to maintain a nonprofit status in the community and even have a paid staff to work with it. So through negotiations, we were able to work that out, and hopefully very soon, when everything gets cleared up, our collection will be viewable again to the community and the public at USC. And so we thank you very much for this opportunity to tell you a little about Auntie Helen and her collection of books. Thank you so much.
Wow, I guess I learned something new today. There's a lot of educators. Educators do great work. And with that, I'm going to introduce Ryan Ballard, who's going to be speaking about John Ballard. And Ryan, I think you're a teacher too, aren't you?
You're absolutely correct, V. Thank you so much for this opportunity yet again. And interestingly enough, as I sit in my classroom, I am reminded of the power of educators. It's noteworthy that you said that, V, because I think everybody on this platform today, whatever your occupation is, I think you're all educators. I'm going to borrow something from my friend Arianne Edmonds, a statement that she said. She said, "I'm here to tell the story of my family, a story of the Black American West." That's what I'm here to do. My name again is Ryan Ballard. I'm the youngest of 6 children born to Reginald and Margaret Ballard. My dad, who is still among the living, is 96 years old. Born in 1924. He is one of 2 brothers born to Dr. Claudius Ballard. My grandfather, Dr. Claudius Ballard, was born in 1890 here in Los Angeles. He's the son of William Ballard, the only son. William must have been born somewhere around the 1870s or maybe a little bit earlier. That's the extent of what was, widely known about my family for quite some time, for most of my life, in fact. There was an inkling, and some familiarity with names and so forth. But in 2009, a fateful day, I'll say. It was in February, in fact, and there was an article in the Los Angeles Times. First of all, I'm going to use the word coincidence, but I don't believe there's anything, there are no coincidences. So as I'm looking at the Los Angeles Times in February of that year, I made a phone call to my dad because the article featured a man by the name of John Ballard. Obviously, I was drawn to it because of our same last names, but there must have been something more. Because when I called my father, before I could give a full and complete greeting, he stopped me and said, "Ryan, I'm looking at the paper and this fellow reminds me of somebody in my family." We talked a while about it and, marveled over what we were both feeling and that experience in that moment. Unbeknownst to both of us, cross town, my sister-in-law saw the article and had already, by the time I called her, she had already reached out to the author of that article from the LA Times, put a call in to one of my sisters. Well, you could say that started the saga that is now Ballard Mountain. So this history, as I'm, kind of sharing with you, is the story of Black American West. I grew up knowing that I was from Los Angeles and that my father was from Los Angeles and his father was from Los Angeles and his father was from Los Angeles. And it wasn't a big deal to me at the time, but obviously it was a big deal because even as a youngster, people would say to me, "You don't seem like you're from Los Angeles." I would say, well, in fact, I really do seem like I'm from Los Angeles because I truly am. Most people, that I interact with were transplants, from someplace else. But no, we truly were from Los Angeles. And what I've come to discover is that there weren't a whole lot of folks who looked like me who were from the early days of Los Angeles. And so maybe that's why this is a story of note. I don't think it's a big deal, and I don't, I never thought of it as being significant, but the more people learned about the Ballards from Los Angeles, the more it kind of became a story of interest. So it is believed that this gentleman, John Ballard, came from Kentucky, which at the time was a slave state, came out here seeking his freedom, had several children. And while the name of the book that we're acknowledging today is Hidden Heroes and Historic Places, I don't think he thought of himself as a hero. I think he was just a man, a resilient man who did what he was supposed to do. And that is, he was a survivor. And so he did what he needed to do so that he could continue to survive, and not only survive, but thrive. He had some children, and the interesting thing that I always like to make note of is that people who are regarded and celebrated in some way, they don't seek that celebrity. They don't do what they do for the sake of the attention that they might receive. But I think they do it just because it is either the responsible thing to do. They want to do something good, not only for themselves, but for their family. And John Ballard probably had no idea that to this day, he would bear children who would serve in world wars, that would serve their country. And that picture that Michelle Banks showed earlier from the African American Firefighter Museum, highlighting Arnett, Hartsfield, my father was in that picture because he was part of the group that originally helped to integrate the Los Angeles Fire Department. My father also is a Tuskegee Airman, but he certainly doesn't see himself as a hero. In fact, it was a horrific experience for him because he had to suffer through racism. My grandfather, Dr. Claudius Ballard, got awards from the French, got the Croix de Guerre, which is the Cross of War, from the French for his service as a medical doctor in World War I, but got nothing from the country in which he was born. And that is the story of America. It's not a secret. I'm here to tell the story. It's not a sad story, but it is, like Michelle Banks even referenced, it's a story of resilience. It's a story that we can do more regardless of the odds and the obstacles that we may face. You know, I'm certainly excited to share the story of John Ballard and Ballard Mountain, which I will, note is you can find it. It's a monument in his honor. But it's not a story that I own. But it's certainly a story that I'm going to champion. You see, admittedly, and I'm in the teaching profession today, but admittedly, as a young person, I didn't like history because I didn't connect to it. Now it is absolutely my favorite subject because I understand that history is being made even right now. And so while you may not have a mountain in your name, and you may not be celebrated, but like was said earlier, the decision you make can have an impact 50, 100, Arianne Edmonds, 140 years down the line. So I hope you'll tell your story. I hope you'll look a little bit deeper into my story. You can find Ballard Mountain off of Canaan Road, off of the 101 freeway. And hopefully it will inspire you, as I've been inspired today by the stories I've heard thus far, as I've been inspired by the life and legacy of my family. I think John Ballard, even though he didn't know it and he didn't get this recognition while he was alive, he was a mountain of a man. So if you get a chance, take a look, go up Canaan Road and reflect on the legacy that you will leave 140 years into the future. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Ryan, thank you. And thank you for inspiring us on resilience and about the importance of doing the good work. Thank you. Next up is Andrea Borchardt, who also works in the science department with me, and she's going to talk about her part in the coloring book. Hey, Andrea. Haven't seen you in a while.
I'm a librarian in the science department, and during the pandemic, at a certain point, at least I got really, really run down because it felt like so many bad things were happening, and there wasn't a way. Everybody was doing their best, but the bad things kept happening. And it kind of reminded me of reading history books where, bad things kept happening, and it felt like those stories could have been changed in a moment if people just wanted to, if enough people wanted to change them, and they kept not being changed. And that was always really frustrating. But that's in part because I didn't have the background in history that I needed to realize what we learned as we were doing this project, which was there have been people doing the work in history this entire time, and we just don't hear about them. So we don't know what it looks like, and that makes it harder for us to do the work. So I think V came up with the idea originally, but as we researched our community and we found different heroes, people who'd done amazing things that we'd never heard of before, we realized there were all of these stories that could help us figure out how to move forward. And we wanted to share that. And we got that opportunity, and that was a really big deal. And it changed my understanding of history and of Los Angeles. It made it a lot more personal. So I hope other people, as they read the coloring book and as they learn more about history, they get that experience too.
Thank you, Andrea. It was a team effort. It was really, really a team effort. We're very, very grateful for the Octavia Lab staff and for everybody who's been involved in this project. It's been eye-opening and very, very heartwarming.
You know? All right. Thank you so much to all our presenters, our guests, and our partners today. We so appreciate your collaboration in this celebration of Hidden Heroes. So please go find the book at Skylight Books online, or if you're in Los Angeles, go say hi to Jay in the store. You can give it as a gift and help make these historical figures less hidden. That's what I recommend. And please be in touch with Best Friends if you'd like to join our library support group. Thank you all so much, and have a wonderful evening.